Hey rock stars, in this video I'm going to show you how to get a killer bass sound out of the Spectra C610 and the pedal pusher in your studio. So get ready to rock. Hey, my name is Lij Shaw and welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how to record, edit, mix, and master your very best record ever, then make sure to hit the like button if you dig this video and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos from us here at Recording Studio Rockstars. All right, so I'm tracking a band in the studio right now. I've got friends in here. We're getting some killer tracking sounds, drums, bass, guitars, vocals, and I thought I'd show you how I'm getting the bass sound on this particular track. So we're using a couple of particularly awesome pieces of gear. This is the Spectra 1964 C610 compressor limiter, comp limiter, and then this up here is from Audio-Simplified, and it is called the pedal pusher, and it's allowing us to send the bass over to this SansAmp pedal. So let me dig in closer and I'll give you guys a complete walkthrough of what we're doing. All right, so I got a full tracking setup going on and we've got drums out here. I'm recording a friend of mine, Chris Chamness, and his bass player, who's great, it's a guy named Keith Campbell, and he's got a couple of these sub basses from, looks like Sterling. They kind of remind me of the Music Man Stingrays. But anyway, we're taking these guys, we're running it on this long wire world cable, which runs all the way over to this DI box. This is the Spectra 1964 BB DI, which has a Cinemag transformer in it. Sounds really killer. And this particular transformer gives you tons and tons of low frequency and full range extension on the bass. So it just sounds really great. It'll move subs down to 20 hertz and below quite easily. The bass is coming into this DI, and then I'm using the thru to go on another cable right into the control room and into this guy right here. So this is my Marchall JMP-1, and this has tubes in it and basically allows me to get a direct tube drive bass sound that I can dial in to blend with my clean DI and blend with the SansAmp, which I'll show you in just a sec. Then on the other side of this DI, you have an XLR cable that's coming out. This is another wire world cable, and that's running right into the Patchbay, and then that actually comes in and goes straight to the Spectra 1964 Complimiter, C610 Complimiter. So there you can see it. This is a classic comp limiter that's been around since this was originally Spectra Sonics, but Spectra 1964, of course, is the new company that Bill Cheney runs and has brought to us. And this allows us to get a killer bass tone straight from the DI going into Pro Tools from there. The really interesting thing is this does not even use a mic pre. So it's built into this unit that this has enough gain that you don't even need a mic pre to go into it. In fact, you could put this on, you know, an SM57 of a snare drum and you wouldn't even need a mic pre. I haven't tried it yet, but I know that that could be a cool thing. So here in this case, you set your input of your bass level right here until we start to get a peak light showing up. And then we take the slope and the release, and we start adjusting those until we're showing a little bit more compression here to taste, and that's where you sort of dial it in so that you're getting the bass tone you want and the bass sustain and the control. And then the output is right here, and the output is going to let us set our level to Pro Tools, which is great. Now, this also has a three-way pad switch. So right now I've got it on 0 pad coming in, but if you had a hot signal coming from the bass or from any other instrument, you can set it to 1 or 2, and you can actually knock the level down on the way into here, which allows you to, again, dial this input level so that you get the appropriate overlight here. Oddly enough, with this piece of gear, you want a little bit of over here because this indicates that you're shaving off some of the peaks before you get into compression and before you send it to Pro Tools so you can have a fuller signal going in. And then that bass DI signal, I know this looks crazy, but this is the Patchbay. That bass DI signal is coming in, and I'm actually sending it over to a Patchbay mult, and I'm able to just mult the output of this signal on its way into Pro Tools. Then one of those mults, I bring that back, and I'm bringing that multed signal over to my guest rack area here. And this is a box from Audio-Simplified called the Pedal Pusher, and it's super badass. This allows us to take an XLR input coming from the Patchbay. I've got two of them, I'm using only one for this session so far. But I come into here, and then the signal comes out on a 1/4" guitar level signal, and it goes into my vintage SansAmp pedal where I can dial in a custom distortion. I can sort of set the distortion gain here, and then some of the tone, and then the output level, and then of course these dip switches, you just flip them on, you get different things like low end boost or mid boost or high boost and stuff like that. And you can dial in an additional bass tone that you blend in with your clean DI signal. Just like the JMP I showed you a moment ago, that also is an additional distortion signal, and I'm using two different variations of distortion to basically, enhance my bass tone, which is pretty cool. This also has a switch here which sort of emulates the mic position, lead, normal, bass. I just have it on normal for right now. But the pedal pusher gives you additional features here where you can also flip the polarity, which ended up being really useful. And this put my additional SansAmp bass tone back in phase with the original DI. Somehow it got flipped on the way here. So that was really handy to do. And then you have a passive tone knob so you can adjust some of the tone of the signal as well. And then what comes out of the SansAmp just goes back into the pedal pusher, goes back on an extra XLR, back over to the Patchbay, and then goes into Pro Tools. And you can see here on my Pro Tools session, I've got the 3 different tracks. So I've got the original bass DI on the first track, and then I have the bass JMP-1 direct signal on the second track, and then on the third track, I have the SansAmp that I just showed you with the pedal pusher. So let's jump into this, and let me let you hear what these sound like and why they're so great to have around. All right, so here we are in the Pro Tools session, and on the first track, let me solo this, and you're gonna hear just what the bass DI by itself sounds like. So, quite honestly, that is an awesome bass sound. I love that. I mean, that is a very pure, controlled bass sound that pushes a ton of low end. In fact, you have to be a little bit careful because there's so much power in your bass. You may not be used to it. You're going to push the speakers in ways that you didn't know you could before with bass when you cut directly through the C610. So one of the nice things about it is bass players just repeatedly tell me that this gives them this, they're like, I've never had this much power in the low end of my bass. It's really a great feeling, and it makes you feel like your instrument is responding to what you're trying to do with your fingers, which is very cool. So then let me go over here and I'll show you what the JMP sounds like. Now remember, this is the Marchall direct tube box, and I got a slightly different distorted tone out of there. Just a little bit of distortion, I think. So as you can see, that's not a full bass sound by itself. It's not trying to do the whole picture of the bass. It's just trying to add that kind of mid-range distortion to it. And now here's the bass SansAmp, and you can see I'm even using less level of that in this case. Okay, cool. So now part of the thing that's really important to understand is that in arriving at these different distortion sounds, you need to listen to them together. I mean, you really need to do whatever you feel like doing, since music is art. But in my case, I wanted to start with a clean bass tone out of the DI, this one here. And I wanted to add stuff to it that helped enhance it, but let that still feel like the main bass sound. So here's just adding the JMP. And again, just the DI. Now we'll add the JMP. And in this case, I actually had to flip the phase on the JMP, so I guess I didn't notice that when I was tracking, but that's what the benefit of having a trim plugin is. Let me show you what happens when you are slightly out of phase. Listen to this. And then flipping it. So they both sound interesting, but in this case I like the one where it's flipped because it sounds a little more focused. Now let me add the bass sans amp and we'll see what that sounds like. And we'll check the phase on that again. And I think I had the phase correct in this one. And take the JMP out, and then take the sans amp out. So yeah, you can just add a little bit of fuzzy tone on it, make it sound like an amp. Add the JMP, slightly different distortion on it. So it's really, really powerful to do this, and the best part of this, of course, is that the DI itself, just by itself, just sounds great if you use that BB DI plus the C610. And let me throw some drums in so you can hear it against the drums. And then here comes the JMP. Here comes the sans amp. So you can really dial it in so that you're really hearing just enough of the finger detail, the note articulation on it. So it can be really powerful to add these things. Now remember, on this first track we have the bass DI, that's the BB DI going through the Spectra 1964 C610 Complimiter. And on this second track I was using my Marchall JMP-1 on the thru connection to go straight to the 1/4" input on that unit. And then this last one, which I'm really excited about, is using the new Audio-Simplified pedal pusher straight in the control room through the XLR feeds. Yet I'm able to hit my sans amp pedal, my classic sans amp pedal. So this, of course, with this setup, I could be processing just about anything you could cook up. I mean, I could have busted out all kinds of guitar pedals and put flangers and phasers and, you know, wah pedals and whatever else I wanted on it if it would have been cool for this bass part. Very cool stuff. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Awesome. If you enjoyed that video and you want to learn more about Spectra 1964 and Audio-Simplified, the pedal pusher, just go to the links below in this video and it'll take you straight there and you can check them out. Thanks for watching this. Remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos from us here at Recording Studio Rockstars. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.